And welcome to the Football for Kids podcast with me, Darren Rees. In this episode, we're going to be talking about one of England's greatest players, Euro 2022 winner and Queen of the Jungle, Jill Scott. We'll be speaking about some of the clubs which Jill has played for, her achievements representing her country, and a famous slide tackle against someone from the royal family. Before we get into this episode, I've had lots of messages from you, the listeners of the podcast. The first one is from a couple of big Arsenal fans, the Parker family. The message says, "Hi Darren, we're a family from Winchester in Hampshire. We've recently discovered your excellent podcast. Well, thank you very much." Their names are Seb Parker and Lukin Parker. Seb wants to shout out to his under-8 Littleton Rocket teammates, including Oscar, Tom, Seb, Orson and Isaac. Lukin wants to shout out to his under-10 Littleton Viper teammates, including Oscar, Bertie, Inigo, Jamie, Alex and Connor. Well boys, thank you very much for listening to the podcast. I hope that your team's doing well. And I bet you were happy with the North London derby the other day. The next one is to Ollie, aged 7, and his brother, Sammy, who turned 6 very soon. So soon, I'm pretty sure it's some point next week. Ollie and Sammy have asked if I could do an episode on the Brazilian Ronaldo and the magnificent Luis Suarez. 2 brilliant suggestions there, boys. I will add those to the list. The last one for this episode is a big hello and a thank you for listening to the podcast to Tom Agnew. Tom is 7 years old from Sydney in Australia, and he and his dad have listened to every episode at least once. That is some dedication. Tom plays for his local team, Hurlston Park Wanderers, and he wants to say hello to 2 of his footballing teammates, Rezig and TJ. Thank you to everyone who has got in touch and who's been listening to the podcast this week. If you want to give a shout out to your football team or your teammates, or put an episode request in, you can ask an adult to send an email to footballforkidspodcast@gmail.com. And remember, if you're listening on Spotify or Amazon or Apple, please hit that follow or subscribe button. You won't believe how much it helps. And if you are on Apple, a 5-star review goes a really long way. Right then, that's enough of that. Let's get into this week's episode. The brilliant, the wonderful, the magnificent lioness, Jill Scott. Jill grew up in Sunderland and was a sporty kid who was a very good runner. Jill was very good at long distance running in particular. She won the under-13s North England cross-country title and the junior Great North Run. Running was one passion of hers and something that she was good at. Her other sporting love was, of course, her football. Jill started out at a club called Bolden Football Club, which Jill said was a very enjoyable time in her footballing career. Bolden Football Club was an inspirational place and ended up producing not 1, not 2, but 3 lionesses. Jill Scott, Demi Stokes and Steph Horton all played for the club in the northeast of England. One of the coaches said back in those days, when the girls were young playing football, some of the boys didn't have the right attitude and they didn't like to let the girls play football because they thought that football wasn't for girls. Well, how wrong were they? Jill was lucky because she had an amazing and very kind coach when she started playing football at Bolden Football Club. It was a man called Paul Smith. Jill doesn't believe she would have gone on to play for her country without Paul. Paul would pick some of the girls up and take them training and take them to the different matches where they developed their skills. Jill started her professional football career at Sunderland Football Club. This must have been a really special moment for an 18-year-old Jill Scott, who grew up in Sunderland and was now a professional football player for her city's club. After a couple of seasons at Sunderland, Jill moved to Everton, where things really started to take off for her. She was voted as the FA's Players' Player of the Year and won the Women's Premier League Cup and the FA Women's Cup. After a very good and successful stint at Everton, Jill made her way to Manchester City, where she played a huge part in City winning the Women's Continental Cup trophy. Jill returned back to Everton after that before finishing her club career at Aston Villa in 2022. Did you know that Jill Scott once played football against a member of the royal family? Jill played with Prince William in a charity event and slide tackled William, completely taking him out. The two of them have formed a bit of a friendship off the back of that match, and Prince William always mentions the slide tackle when he sees Jill at football events. Did you also know that Jill Scott represented Team GB at the 2012 London Olympics? Jill was picked as part of a squad to represent Great Britain. So not only has she been a part of the biggest sporting tournament on the planet, but her slick skills, never give up attitude and ability to win the ball back mentality has meant that Jill has represented Team GB and been a big part of England winning their first major trophy in 56 years. Jill's England career is into the triple figures for her appearances for her country. She scored in the Lionesses' well-known 20-0 win against Latvia and lifted the trophy at Wembley Stadium when England's Lionesses beat Germany to win the entire Euro 2022 tournament. In 2020, Jill was awarded something which is called an MBE, which stands for Member of the British Empire. This is an award given out by the royal family for people who have done amazing and inspirational things. Jill was given her award for her services to women's football. Jill Scott is an inspiration to up-and-coming footballers and has achieved some truly brilliant things and represented her country and teams with pride and passion, and will undoubtedly be a player that is spoken about for a very long time. I hope that you've enjoyed listening and learning about the life and career of Jill Scott so far. And remember, if you know someone who loves football just as much as you do, then please tell them about Football for Kids. And whether you're playing football soon, watching it on the telly or pitch side, I hope that you enjoy the game. See you next time.